My name is Emily, and this is the story of a connection I never expected. Gentle, simple, and quietly life-changing. I grew up in a small town in Virginia, surrounded by rolling hills, tall oak trees, and quiet porches. My older sister Rachel was always the bright star in our family, smart, confident, and the first to move out and build her own life. When she got married, I was still in high school. That's when I first met Nathan, her husband's younger brother. He was polite, quiet, and seemed distant, maybe a little too serious for someone his age. I was 16 at the time, full of dreams, always writing in my notebook, and wondering what the world outside our town looked like. Nathan had just returned from college for his brother's wedding. He was 21, studying architecture, and had a calm presence that stood out. We didn't talk much that day, just a few polite greetings and an awkward smile. But something about him stayed in my memory longer than I expected. Over the years, our paths crossed occasionally. Family gatherings, holidays, or birthday dinners. I noticed how kind he was with my parents, how he always brought thoughtful gifts, and how he listened more than he spoke. He wasn't flashy or loud. He was simply different. It wasn't until I turned 21 and moved to the city for my internship that things really began to shift. Rachel had settled nearby with her husband, and I often visited them for home-cooked meals and warm conversations after a long day of work. And that's where I saw Nathan again. He had just moved back into town for a new job, and sometimes dropped by his brother's house, the same days I was there. At first, it was just small talk. He'd ask how my internship was going, or recommend a good book. Then one day, he invited me to a local art exhibit. "I know you love stories," he said. "These paintings are like silent stories. Thought you might enjoy them." I did enjoy them, but more than that, I enjoyed how he noticed something about me that most people didn't. That evening, we walked around the exhibit slowly, stopping to guess what each painting meant. He never rushed me. He listened, he smiled, and most importantly, he understood. From that point on, our meetings became more frequent. Not planned, not intense, just easy, thoughtful, and full of quiet joy. We shared stories from our childhood, talked about our favorite places, and sometimes just sat in silence with coffee in hand. I never told anyone how I was beginning to feel, not even Rachel. I didn't fully understand it myself. How do you describe a connection that doesn't have loud fireworks, but instead feels like a steady sunrise? He never crossed any lines, never said anything that made me uncomfortable, but the way he looked at me, with kindness, respect, and a gentle smile, made my heart feel safe. One evening, we sat on a park bench after a long walk. The sun was setting behind the trees and the sky had turned orange and pink. Nathan turned to me and said something that stayed in my heart. "You remind me of peace, Emily. Like home." I didn't respond right away. I just smiled, because sometimes emotions don't need big words. Sometimes they just need quiet moments. And that's how it all began. Not with a dramatic twist or a whirlwind, but with little glances, thoughtful words, and the beginning of something rare. Days turned into weeks, and our friendship deepened in ways I hadn't anticipated. Nathan and I found comfort in each other's company, a refuge from the hectic pace of city life and the everyday worries that everyone faces. One rainy afternoon, I called Nathan after a long, tiring day at work. He picked up right away, and we ended up talking for over an hour about everything and nothing. It felt like a safe space where I could be myself without judgment. Nathan shared stories about his childhood, the simple joys of growing up with his brother, and how family meant everything to him. He talked about his dreams for the future, designing homes that would bring warmth and happiness to others. I listened intently, feeling more connected than ever. Despite the closeness, there was always respect for boundaries. We both understood the importance of family ties and the delicate balance our relationship needed to maintain. Nathan was my sister's brother-in-law, yes, but more than that, he was becoming my trusted friend. There were moments when I caught myself thinking about him in ways I hadn't expected, wondering how his day was, hoping to hear his voice, feeling a quiet happiness whenever we met. It wasn't a flashy or dramatic feeling, but a steady and calming bond that grew stronger with time. One weekend, Rachel invited me to a family barbecue. Nathan was there too, grilling and sharing jokes with everyone. Watching him interact with our family reminded me why I admired him so much. He was genuine, caring, and patient. After the guests left, Nathan and I stayed behind, cleaning up the backyard together. The night air was cool and the stars twinkled softly above. We talked about dreams again, his architectural projects and my plans for further education. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "sometimes I think the most important designs aren't the ones you draw on paper, but the ones you build with people." His words stayed with me long after that night. It was true, not every relationship needs grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes the most meaningful connections are built quietly, with trust, understanding, and respect. But life wasn't without its challenges. As our relationship grew, I felt moments of doubt and uncertainty. How would Rachel feel if she knew? Would she understand? Could Nathan and I continue this bond without causing discomfort in our family? One evening, I decided to be honest with Rachel. I invited her over for coffee and gently shared my feelings, not in a dramatic confession, but as a heartfelt conversation about how much Nathan meant to me as a friend and more. Rachel listened carefully, her eyes soft but serious. Then she smiled and took my hand. "Emily," she said, "family is about love in many forms. If Nathan makes you happy and respects our family, that's what matters most." Her words relieved a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Sometimes understanding from those closest to you makes all the difference. Nathan and I continued to nurture our bond, always mindful of the family ties and values we cherished. We found joy in simple moments, sharing a book, watching a movie, or taking a quiet walk in the park. Our relationship wasn't about rushing or pressure, it was about discovering a special friendship that grew into something unique, based on respect, kindness, and a deep emotional connection. As I look back, I realize that sometimes the most meaningful stories aren't filled with drama or conflict. They're about people finding each other in unexpected ways and choosing to build something lasting, something true. As months passed, Nathan and I continued to grow closer, always honoring the trust and respect that had formed the foundation of our bond. Our relationship was like a quiet river, steady, gentle, and deeply meaningful. One chilly autumn evening, we went to the local community center where a small concert was being held. The room was filled with soft melodies and warm smiles. Sitting side by side, I felt the comfort of his presence, the calm reassurance that no matter what life brought, we had each other's support. After the concert, we took a slow walk through the tree-lined streets, the crisp leaves crunching underfoot. Nathan stopped by a small park bench and looked at me with sincere eyes. "Emily," he said softly, "this connection we share, it's rare and precious. I want to keep building it, one step at a time." I nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude and happiness. It wasn't a loud declaration or a dramatic moment, but a quiet promise, a commitment to nurture what we had with patience and care. In the months that followed, our bond grew stronger, not because of grand gestures but because of everyday acts of kindness. A thoughtful message, a shared laugh, or a helping hand during tough days. We supported each other's dreams, celebrated small victories, and navigated challenges with open hearts and honest communication. Our families began to see the depth of our relationship too. Rachel especially became a source of encouragement, reminding me that love takes many forms and that true happiness comes from genuine connections. One Sunday afternoon, Nathan invited me to a small picnic by the lake. We sat under the shade of a large oak tree, watching the gentle ripples on the water and listening to the soft songs of birds. "I'm grateful for you, Emily," he said, his voice steady. "You've brought a sense of peace and joy into my life that I didn't expect. I look forward to many more moments like this, with you." His words were simple, yet they held the weight of 1,000 unspoken feelings. I smiled, feeling a warmth that filled every corner of my heart. Our journey wasn't about rushing to the next step or defining labels. It was about building a meaningful relationship based on trust, respect, and a deep emotional connection. A relationship that honored our family values and the special bond we shared. Looking back, I realize how lucky I am to have found Nathan, not just as my sister's brother-in-law, but as a true friend and companion on life's journey. Our story is a reminder that love doesn't always follow the expected path. Sometimes it arrives quietly, grows steadily, and becomes something timeless, a beautiful chapter in the book of life. And as we continue to write that chapter together, I am filled with hope, gratitude, and a peaceful joy that comes from knowing I am not alone.